It has been a while since me and the handsome man himself, Harley Dugan, who you can find on YouTube at @TheLead_Houston, have done an episode, just us two. The Houston Texans are entering the bye week. First off, though, Harley, how's it going? How you been, buddy?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Give me 1 second here, actually. Jake Hansen. Huh.
What
Interesting.
happened?
I just that tweet of mine, and it continues to reach some Texans now, former and current. But that one tweet I had about John Runyon just
Okay.
yesterday that has gone viral. Um, yeah, Jake Hansen liked the tweet.
Mm,
So that's it's interesting to see. I opened my eyes about it because Joe Mixon quote tweeted that
hmm
my tweet and mentioned how funny it was, the hypocrisy in the NFL, and that's basically the point we're gonna even talk about too here. But yeah, man, I'm doing fine, man. I'm
mm.
I'm blessed. Loving the content that I'm making and hoping for bigger things always.
Absolutely, man. We're always hoping. I mean, hey, we're on Bleacher Report. We're doing great things. But you bring up the tweet that you brought up about John Runyon, NFL VP, the one who had some very, very spicy words about our linebacker, Azeez Al talking about the integrity of the game being at question. And what was funny, guys, if you don't know Harley, he puts out a tweet of John Runyon himself as an offensive lineman jumping over a hurdle on the floor. That play was already done, targets the guy across from him, and it is as textbook as head to head gets. That's the guy who told Azeez Al that he is messing up the integrity of the game. And that's one of the reasons why I brought you here, Harley, because the past 72 hours since Azeez Al hit on Trevor Lawrence has kind of painted the Houston Texans as now the villains of the NFL at the moment. And especially when you hear comments from D'Amico, comments from Nick, it feels like they themselves are embracing it.
Oh man, I love it.
Mm,
As a Houston sports fan, anybody that lives in Houston, that breathes Houston, that rocks with the Houston sports teams, this isn't unfamiliar territory.
mm,
This isn't. We're used to being painted as a villain. We can go back to 2017 with the Houston Astros and going into the 2019-2020 season, actually, the COVID year. That is where everything broke out, that the we're better than you scandal came out, and the Houston Astros were accused of cheating and they were trash banging and they were used as scapegoats
mm,
for the MLB. And we embraced it. We
mm-hmm.
had players on our team that fully embraced it and had comments to where if you don't, what was it? If you don't believe in the facts, shut the
Uh,
fuck up.
Yeah.
I forgot the
If you
the
don't know
Carlos
the
Correa.
facts,
If you
shut
don't
the
know the
fuck
facts,
up.
shut the
That was
fuck up.
from former shortstop Carlos Correa. And
Yeah,
hey, they
man.
even hated us when James Harden and Chris
There
Paul
we
were
go.
doing their thing. And when we got Russell Westbrook, they were hating the Houston
Everyone
Rockets.
always hated James Harden. They
Always.
painted him horribly. The national media never liked his game. They hate his game. And now it's so funny because you fast forward to today and I just see a few podcasts with NBA players, and Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce mentioned how that everyone says Steph Curry changed the game, and they said he didn't change the game. James Harden
Mm.
changed the game. That's how funny this is. So yeah, man, it's this is fun, man. I can't wait to get into this.
So the Astros are being hated and called cheaters, and that will forever
Oh yeah.
happen until for as long as this franchise is in Houston. We know how the media feels about the Rockets, even though right now, as a top seed in the West, not getting the love that they deserved. And now this is the first time we are seeing these Houston Texans being painted in the same way as the other two. And I brought up the comments of D'Amico Ryans and Nick Casario embodying that, right? D'Amico Ryans said that, and Trevor Lawrence, he should have slid earlier, and that the Jaguars overreacted from that hit. And then you have Nick Casario on the next day, a press conference, upset about the narrative painted about our linebacker Azeez Al-Shaair, saying bullshit, and that's very uncharacteristic from Nick Casario. His entire press conference was very uncharacteristic, and it feels like this Houston Texans team has a brand new attitude. Houston versus everyone.
I love it, man. Again, if you breathe anything in Houston, it's always been that way. It has always been an H Town versus everybody mentality here. We can go to hell the Rockets with James Harden. We can even go with the Rockets when they had run our test and Yao Ming during that year. We can go as far back with the Astros before the Jose Altuve stuff, and yeah, you had the red brick jerseys and everything, but I mean, we had a lot of fun being the little train that could in '05 that almost tried to win a World Series that year, but nobody wanted you to win. Everybody wanted the Chicago team to win, and they got their wish. This isn't nothing new. Again, not familiar. This is familiar territory for Houston sports fans, and it's always been that way. It always will be, regardless of how big the city is. We're the
Mm,
fifth largest or fourth largest city in America, but it does not matter. We're always viewed as a small market team for some reason. And I love this. I love the anger. I love the passion
mm,
from our GM, from our head coach, defending Azeez Al-Shaair. I love every second of that. AJ Hawk on the Pat McAfee show actually said the exact same thing, defended head coach D'Amico Ryans and Nick Casario. He loved it. Being a former player, he understood what they were trying to do, and he loves that they're defending the player, they're defending the team, and the locker room, man. If they're not getting a little hyped about this, if they're not excited how their GM and how their head coach went to bat for them,
mm,
despite how they feel of anything. Like Nick Casario said this without any fear of being fined. Like he did
mm.
not care. He just let it rip. And D'Amico said some stuff. One part I might disagree, but for the majority of it, completely agree. D'Amico did his thing. The Texans, hey, this is what they wanted to paint us as. And you know what sucks is the news of Trevor Lawrence, how great timing that is. The news of Trevor Lawrence possibly being out for the rest of the year. He's in concussion protocol. How timely this news comes out when the appeal hearing for Azeez Al-Shaair is also today. And the timing is just hilarious to me.
Mm,
And this is what national media is going to do. They're going to take what you're saying, H Town versus everyone, right? They're painting us as villains. They're going to take that post and they're going to say, look at what Azeez did. He knocked out Trevor Lawrence for the rest of the year. We're not going to remember that Trevor Lawrence had an AC joint and a shoulder injury going into this game. He was already banged up. All right. All right. Nobody remembers that. Nobody remembers, oh boy, trying to be a damn hero and get one or two more yards on a 2nd and 7. A 2nd and 7. You're trying to get one or two more yards running out there injured. To me, it looks like Jaguars fans are mad at their organization for having Trevor Lawrence play, and they're deflecting that anger towards the Houston fan base. That's what it feels like to me.
And I just can't wait for this bye week to end. When you hear the phrase chess, not checkers, it feels like that right here. It feels like D'Amico Ryans and Nick Casario are playing the mind games here. And I 100% agree with you. I would be fired up if I was a Houston Texan. Normally you think your boss, your superior will go up there and say, hey, I'm sorry for what he did. That's not the style of football. That's not the brand of football that we teach here. No, D'Amico Ryans came out and said he should have slid quicker, and they overreacted. I'm that shocked everyone. It shocked me when I heard it, and then it shocked when Nick Casario followed that up the very next day. And Big Sarge pointed out that Hannah and Cal McNair were also in that press conference with General Manager Nick Casario, right? Kind of giving him their stamp of approval also. So now we got the ownership and all the front office locked in at the same H Town versus everyone. I cannot wait for this bye week to end, man. we got some news regarding linebacker Christian Harris. General Manager Nick
Mm.
Caserio said that he is progressing well and that we could potentially see him sooner rather than later. Aaron Wilson has tweeted we might get him in the game against Miami. This comes at a perfect time with the 3-game suspension to Azeez Al-Shaair.
Yeah, if you can have, I mean, Christian Harris supposed to bounce back, right? Supposed to come
Mhm,
back. Hey, this is good timing, as you said. Christian Harris, as we all saw last year, blossomed
mhm,
into what we thought this year could be a Pro Bowl year and maybe even an All Pro year. That's how great of a player Christian Harris, the level he was playing at last year until,
mhm,
obviously the end of the season and then re-injuring himself in training camp. It's unfortunate, but it is fortunate now that the timing of it all can happen pretty swiftly. And Christian Harris, along with Henry T, that sounds like a pretty good duo right there. Is considering Henry T for the majority of the season has played very well and much
mhm,
improved than last year. Uh, Question whether or not Christian Harris, we got to see how good of a football shape he's in. I'm
mhm,
sure this first game, he'll probably be on a pitch count on his first game. Excuse me, but the hopefully it's the Miami game. I'm hoping he comes back for that game.
mhm,
I only say hope because you just never know with the Houston Texans. You never know with how they, delegate their injuries is always kind of
mhm,
we're gonna give this guy an extra week. So they did the same thing with Nico Collins. Hell, I thought they gave him maybe 2 extra weeks. Actually,
mhm.
I thought they could have brought him back sooner. I thought they put him on the 4 week IR, knowing that he probably really was only going to be out 2 or 3 weeks. So and then you gave him an extra game against the Detroit Lions. So we'll see how the Texans manage. We'll see how the Texans manage this with Christian Harris. It's something I'm very interested in. But yeah, man, you have him back. You can finally have almost a fully healthy defense. We still don't know
Mhm.
any of the status for Jalen Petrie. I'd really love to have Jalen Petrie back, but partially torn pec. I'm just not quite sure how that's going to work out. And again, how the Texans delegate their injuries. We'll see how that works. I think, if anything, we won't see Petrie for this year. Maybe we see him in the playoffs.
Maybe.
Maybe. That would be fun, and then we could finally see what a fully healthy defense looks like. That would be very interesting and pretty good timing considering it would be in the playoffs.
No, absolutely. Just hoping we get some insight sooner rather than later, man. The bye week, like I said, I can't wait for it to come to an end. But this was a much needed rest. We've been playing football since the Hall of Fame game. Last thing we got to talk about, there will be no change at offensive coordinator. General Manager Nick Caserio, another tidbit he gave us. Big Sarge asked him whether or not a change at play caller will be made. He said, absolutely not. He believes in Bobby Slowick and says, when it comes to the second half, it all comes down to execution. So, Harley, we will not see quarterback coach Gerard Johnson taking over. Bobby Slowick still and will be the play caller for the remainder of the season.
It's not shocking.
No.
I know you mentioned about hopefully a change at OC going into the bye week or play calling duties at
Mhm,
least. But I just didn't see it happening, especially with how they played this last week. I thought Bobby Slowick had an actual decent game plan against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And this is going to sound funny as hell, but I thought the Texans didn't execute as well for the game plan. There was still a lot of missed throws by CJ Stroud, some missed plays here and there that I'm sure Stroud wants to get back.
mhm,
What my biggest hope for the bye week is that they reset CJ's mind where he doesn't look as rattled. He looks more comfortable. He looks more confident. And that's always going to be with the offensive line, too, because both of them are attached to each other. The offensive line plays better and they give CJ enough time. And that confidence comes back for CJ and he looks comfortable and he's not, going through the progressions so quickly and
mhm,
missing plays, overthrowing players, underthrowing guys. That confidence comes back. This Texans team can actually do something for the rest of the year and the playoffs, but we got to figure that out first. Bobby Slowick not moving. Hey, I don't. I mean, you know what I told you. I'd have
Mm.
rather seen maybe an offensive line change. But Nick also mentioned it too
Yeah,
with
shout
Juice
out to
Scruggs
Juice.
that they'd rather have him at center, but he's looked solid at guard. I don't know what the definition of solid is to Nick Casario. I know Nick Casario is a thesaurus and a dictionary in his mind every once in a while, especially with Payne and Pendergast in the morning at 6:10, utilizing the big words and such. But the definition of solid for Juice Scruggs is laughable to me. That's a
Mhm,
very low bar. Juice Scruggs has not looked good at left guard. You have a problem at left guard, and it looks like the Houston Texans are going to do absolutely nothing in the bye week to try to fix the offense whatsoever, at least visible changes to the
mhm,
fans' perspective. Now, what we don't know is maybe they implement something new, adjustments, again, resetting the mind of CJ Stroud, making them regain that confidence again. Like that's the stuff we won't see as fans until the game starts. So we're
mm.
gonna criticize it from here till then that they just sat on their ass and didn't do nothing. And hey,
Oh, I don't wanna have that conversation at all, buddy, but, man, Harley, I just wanna thank you, dude, hopefully, we could do this pretty soon and talk about some more Houston Texan victories. New mindset coming out of the bye week in the toughest part of the Houston Texans schedule. Are they going to embrace the villain role? We hope they do. Guys, you can find Harley at TheLead_Houston, where he drops Houston content, all sports. Go to his, what's your Twitter, man?
right down below, man,
Mhm.
at the lead underscore HOU.
Is it the same on TikTok as well?
Same thing on all social media platforms.
At TheLead_Houston, ladies and gentlemen. And guys, thank y'all so much. You all have a very blessed day.